Vishnupada Paramahansa Paviyakacharya Ashtottara Shuddha Shushimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Shiva Prabhupada ki Jai Vishnupada Paramahansa Paviyakacharya Ashtottara Shuddha Shushimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Shri Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda ki Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda ki Jai Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Govina Shyamakunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan ki Vrindavan Dham ki Mathura Dham ki Ganga Mai ki Yamuna Mai ki Tulsi Devi ki Bhakti Devi ki Samaveta Bhaktivinda ki all glories to the Assembled Devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to the Assembled Devotees Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prashtavate Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Nityananda. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Reading from Canto 3, text, chapter 15, text, sorry, I'm just got to do the thing, sorry. Kaha, vam, iha, itya, bhagavat, paricaryaya, uccaihi, tad-dharmiṇāṁ, nivasatāṁ, viṣamaḥ, svabhāvaḥ, tasmin, praśānta-puruṣe, gata-vigrahe, vam, kaha, vātmavat, kuhakayoḥ, pariśaṅkanīyaḥ, munaya ūcuḥ, ko vāmihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. What's a better meter for this? tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamya svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe vam. ko vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ. munaya ūcuḥ, ko vāmihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamya svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe vam. ko vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ. munaya ūcuḥ, ko vāmihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamya svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe vam. ko vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ. Please repeat.
munaya munaya ūcuḥ.
You ask Ali if he put the bread in the oven for half an hour.
Bhagavat-paricaryayoccais.
Bhagavat-paricaryayoccais.
tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ.
tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ.
tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ. Munaya ūcuḥ.
Go ahead.
Munaya ūcuḥ. Ko vam ihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ. Munaya ūcuḥ.
bhagavat-paricaryayoccais.
ihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ.
tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
vātmavat pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
Anyone else?
munaya
ūcuḥ.
ko vam ihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais.
bhagavat-paricaryayoccais.
tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe
vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
Munaya ūcuḥ. Ko vam ihaitya bhagavat-paricaryayoccais. tad-dharmiṇāṁ nivasatāṁ viṣamaḥ svabhāvaḥ. tasmin praśānta-puruṣe gata-vigrahe vātmavat kuhakayoḥ pariśaṅkanīyaḥ.
Okay. Munaya, the great sages. Ūcuḥ. Kaha, said. Kaha, who. Vam, you two. Iha, in Vaikuṇṭha. Ihaitya, having attained. Bhagavat, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Paricaryaya, by the service. Ūcuḥ, having been developed by past pious actions. tad-dharmiṇāṁ, of the devotees. Nivasatāṁ, dwelling in Vaikuṇṭha. Viṣamaḥ, discordant. Svabhāvaḥ, mentality.
mentality.
Tasmin,
Tasmin,
in the Supreme Lord.
in the Supreme Lord.
Praśānta-puruṣe,
praśānta-puruṣe,
without anxieties.
without anxieties.
Gata-vigrahe,
gata-vigrahe,
without an enemy.
without any enemy.
Vam, of you two. Kuhakayoḥ, or vātmavat, like yourselves.
Like yourselves.
Kuhakayoḥ,
Kuhakayoḥ,
maintaining duplicity.
maintaining duplicity.
pariśaṅkanīyaḥ,
pariśaṅkanīyaḥ,
not being trustworthy.
not being trustworthy.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. The sages said, who are these two persons who have developed such a discordant mentality even though they are posted in the service of the Lord in the highest position and are expected to have developed the same qualities as the Lord? How are these two persons living in Vaikuṇṭha? Where is the possibility of an enemy coming into the kingdom of God? The Supreme Personality of Godhead has no enemy. Who could be envious of Him? Probably these two persons are imposters, therefore they suspect others to be like themselves. Purport. The difference between the inhabitants of a Vaikuṇṭha planet and those of material planet is that in the Vaikuṇṭha, all the residents engage in the service of the Lord Himself and are equipped with all His good qualities. It has been analyzed by great personalities that when a conditioned soul is liberated and becomes a devotee, about 79% of all good qualities of the Lord develop in his person. Therefore, in the Vaikuṇṭha world, there is no question of enmity between the Lord and the residents. Here in the material world, the citizens may be inimical to the chief executives or heads of state. But in Vaikuṇṭha, there is no such mentality. One is not allowed to enter Vaikuṇṭha unless he has completely developed the good qualities. The basic principles of goodness is to accept subordination to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sages therefore were surprised to see that the two doormen who checked them from entering the palace, were not exactly like the residents of Vaikuṇṭhaloka. It may be said that a doorman's duty is to determine who should be allowed to enter the palace and who should not. But this is not relevant in this matter because no one is allowed to enter the Vaikuṇṭha planets unless he has developed 100% his mentality of devotional service to the Supreme Lord. No enemy of the Lord can enter Vaikuṇṭhaloka. The Kumāras concluded that the only reason for the doormen checking them was that the doormen themselves were imposters. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyananjana Chalakaya Chakshurumnitamena Tasmai Shri Guru Namah Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishtam Stapitamena Bhutale Swayam Rupakatamayam Dadati Swapadamtikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivatapadakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavangsha Shri Rupam Sagratanam Sagar Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadhutam Savaditam Parijanasetam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Saganalita Shri Vijayakanditam He Krishna Karunasindha Dinavanda Jagadade Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishwavanasade Devi Pranamami Hepiya Vancha Kalpadruvishya Kripasindu Vichapaditanaam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo 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 Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamiti Namane Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharni Nirvisesha Pashyate Deshitarni Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jnananandamayam Devam Nirmaspatikakriti Mandharam Sarva Vidyanam Hai Guru Upasmaya Guru Vaishnava Bhagavan Tinir Smarana Hai Vigna Vinashanana Shahai Nijavashita Puran. Okay, so here we see pretty interesting pastime going on in which there's a lot of back and forward between Jai Vijay and the Kumāras, and also Vishnu himself becomes involved in this whole pastime. It's interesting that in the Srimad Bhagavatam we see actually this is one of the few first descriptions of kingdom of God that comes in, and the first thing that's happening is there is some difficulty. Even this whole chapter is entitled Description of the Kingdom of God. Immediately we're seeing some sort of discrepancy in entering into Vaikuṇṭha, whether they should enter, they should not enter, are they qualified to enter? Well, if they are qualified to enter, well, how do we make it up here all the way to the gate if we're not qualified to enter? And then are these two who are standing at the door imposters? That is being mentioned here. So a lot of different interesting topics are brought up in this whole pastime, a lot of different lessons to be learned and understandings to take away from these pastimes. this particular pastime, we see that the offending devotees of the Lord is one of the main emphasis that is seen here. Sometimes people take this and try to understand the fall down of the jiva, which is not applicable at all in this case if you actually see how Srila Prabhupada comments upon it and how the pastime actually is acted out. We see that how devotees sometimes take different positions in order to serve the Lord. Sometimes as a part of the pastime, devotees, they come down to the material world, as Srila Prabhupada writes also, that they come down to serve the Lord in some way. And whether, in this case, it's not very often that they come down to serve the Lord in one sense, in seemingly unfavorable way by fighting against the Lord. Well, we see that even the great acharyas themselves, they come from the spiritual world, they come down from the spiritual world in order to serve the Lord. Whereas the jivas, us, we fall from the spiritual world. We see that later that Vishnu will actually bless them, saying, "You go, you have good fortune. You go down to the world, and I can nullify the curse, but I won't do it. You do it because the Brahmanas have cursed you. I have to take the Brahmanas seriously. So you go down and you have good fortune, though. How so? You fight against me. You'll have the opportunity to have a transcendental lila." And you can't really get that in Vaikuṇṭha. The devotees perhaps can't get that in Vaikuṇṭha. A different type of rasa they're able to experience with the Lord also, actually. There's much more there, that they go down and they fight against the Lord. They have that in Vrindavan, where the cowherd boys are able to fight with the Lord, but maybe not in Vaikuṇṭha, in which the devotees themselves, there's something like that also. Sometimes Guru Maharaj was mentioning that some sort of thing, maybe they're like that, or even in Vrindavan, that there's some so-called demons, but specifically in Vaikuṇṭha. So there is different rasa that Jaya and Vijaya are also able to experience. So there's multiple things that are going on here. But specifically in regards to this verse, the sages here, who are these two persons who have developed such a discordant mentality, even though they are posted in the service of the Lord in the highest position, and are expected to have developed the same qualities as the Lord. So here, the difference between the inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭha planet and those of material planet is that in the Vaikuṇṭha, all residents are engaged in the service of the Lord Himself and are all equipped with all His good qualities. So we see that the four Kumāras are seeing Jaya Vijaya as, how is it that these two personalities don't know how to do their duty? They have the post, they're up in Vaikuṇṭha, and they're at the doors, they're meant to be doorkeepers, but seems like they don't know how to do their duty. It seems like they have no idea what they're doing. Why are they given this position? Well, who are they given the position by? Vishnu himself. So how is it that they're not acting properly? Well, Prabhupada specifically here says that that the difference is that the service of the difference between the inhabitants of Vaikuṇṭhaloka and those of material planet is that in Vaikuṇṭha all the residents engage in the service of the Lord Himself. So they should be, speaking according to what Shastra says and what Prabhupada is describing here, that they should have all good qualities, they should be perfect in their duty. So why do the Kumāras feel as though that it's imperfect? Why is it that they're looking at him, these guys are not doing their job properly? Well, we see different things within Shastra. Well, Srila Prabhupada mentions in one place that the four Kumāras were still under the influence of modes of passion and ignorance. Here we see, how is that so? It's also hard to understand because they were able to come to the platform of approaching Brahma Jyoti. They're impersonalists, striving to achieve impersonal liberation. Generally one has to be in the mode of goodness, in the higher section of mode of goodness. So Prabhupada writes here that in the 16th chapter later, that now the Kumāras are thinking in terms of their position in the mode of passion and ignorance, and they are prepared to accept any kind of punishment from the Lord. So they were still thinking in some vision like that the Kumāras are not doing their job properly. We see that even within devotional service. Sometimes people from outside will come and criticize the devotees that they're not doing their job properly. But because they're not able to understand the intricacies of devotional service, they're not able to also see how a devotee may be doing something properly, but they see it as improper. So here we see that the vision of the four Kumāras may also be influenced by that vision of some, the modes of material nature are still influenced there. So we see Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur comments in the 11th canto that the neophyte often tries to bring down the position of a pure devotee. Because he can't come up to that level, he often tries to bring down, he takes the pure devotee's platform down, and he may put other neophytes on a higher platform also, where they become envious of the position of the pure devotee. So we can see that, not that the Kumāras particularly they're not neophytes, obviously they're not, but we see that example being given, that their vision is imperfect here, because Jaya and Vijaya have been given the post by the Lord. They're as good as the Lord because they're doing the work for the Lord. So they're servants of Vishnu, and they've got such a high post. So how is it that somebody can even question them? How can you even question it? Okay, we came up to Vaikuṇṭha, we want to enter. I don't think you guys are doing your job properly. How dare you not let me enter? How dare you not let me, okay, somebody walks into this room, they're the chef. They're like expert chef from somewhere else. And they walk in, it's like, let me cook. No. The temple president says, no, you can't cook, Prabhu. We want to see if you're qualified to cook. Now, how dare you say that? How dare, well, I'm the temple president. I have the position, so, they must have given you the wrong position, because there's no way that you can't tell me not to cook. It's like, well, you just try to walk up in my building and tell me that I can't tell you what to do and what not to do. So we see that the influence that, although by the mercy of the Lord, I was just talking with Vishnu Chitta Prabhu, by the mercy of the Lord, the four Kumāras have just got an attraction to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now all of a sudden, questioning the position of Jaya and Vijaya. And well, we see in this pastime that often we're taking the position, okay, Jaya and Vijaya are offending the four Kumāras. But you take a little bit of different perspective, what's going on here? You guys just got off the Brahmajyoti platform of, impersonal liberation. Now finally you have some attraction to the Lord. All of a sudden you're like, let me in, and criticizing those devotees who have been serving for eternity. So what's going on here? It's difficult to understand. Well, it's easy to understand in some sense also, that it is the aspect of the Lord wanting this pastime to be carried out. So we see that the devotees of the Lord who are serving the Lord, that wherever the devotees are, that is Vaikuṇṭha, they're equipped with all good qualities. What is that verse that Yasyasta bhakti bhagavati akinchana sarva gunai tatrasi asuraha. So that one has all the qualities of demigods. One who serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he attains all the qualities of the demigods. And we see that in devotees, as they practice devotional service, as we go through the platform of performing service to the Lord and going through anartha nivritti and becoming steady in devotional service, attaining some level of steadiness, all the good qualities become manifest in that devotee, to the extent that we can get through our anartha nivritti, all the anarthas that are there in the heart. If we can get through those, then those qualities are able to shine. But often when we're not able to get through those, then we can question devotional service. What happened? I thought, I was meant to perform devotional service and all these good qualities. So what are the good qualities? Ultimately, good quality is anybody that serves Krishna. That is all good quality. There's no higher quality than that. But specifically speaking about all of these proper behavior, proper action, proper judgment, proper speech, achar in general, one's overall ability to move in life or function in life, it should have all good qualities, but they're often overshadowed or they're not fully present in our stage yet, because we're still going through a lot of anartha-nivritti, in which we still have a lot of separatist mentality in when we serve the Lord. Those at the Vaikuṇṭha planets, there is no separatist mentality. I was listening to Mukundatta Prabhu, and we have the different types of liberation that we see. And one of them is Sayujya Mukti, in which we are completely, now, of all the different, that's one that we don't aspire for at all. Any devotees that are, any Vishnu Bhakta does not aspire for that. Within our tradition, as our acharyas have explained it, as Srila Prabhupada explains it, we see that as impersonal liberation, merging into the oneness of the Lord. But also we see in Madhvacharya's tradition, in the Ramanuja line also, they give a slight different understanding of Sayujya Mukti, that one becomes one with the Lord in the sense that he starts to act as an instant, his body or his hands, they act as the Lord, act as the hands of the Lord. So they also give that, which is very nice. Mukundatta Prabhu, if you get a chance, he has every lecture I listen to, and just so much, because he's done so much scholarly work in the different lines of acharyas and different Vaishnava sampradayas, and gone through so much work. Every time you listen to his lectures, there's just always something so deep. But anyways, making the point here that that when one is in that liberated condition, he has all good qualities. That he's not lacking in any qualities. Specifically mentioning here that one has 79% of all good qualities of the Lord developed in his person. So practically speaking, as good as the Lord. So when one is in Vaikuṇṭhaloka, then one is surrounded by all of these devotees who are full of these good qualities. So it has been analyzed by great personalities that when a conditioned soul is liberated and becomes a devotee, about 79% of all the good qualities of the Lord become developed in his person. Therefore, in the Vaikuṇṭha world, there is no question of enmity between the Lord and the residents. So, Jai and Vijay, they're saying that how is it possible that, why do they think that it could be enemies up here? It's interesting, they say, who could be envious of him? Probably these two people are imposters. So what are you saying right now? So you're saying that how could we be envious? How could anybody that we could be envious could be up here? And then contradictorily you're saying, so these people could be imposters. So are they envious then? Imposters, what's the they're imposters of servants of the Lord? So you're saying that there could be no envy up here, but at the same time, they could be envious. How is it so? Probably like these two persons, therefore they suspect others to be like themselves. So they're thinking we're envious, but actually they're envious. That's what is being stated here. But at the same time they're saying, how could it be that, where is the possibility of an enemy coming to the kingdom of God? But these two people, they must be enemies. So there's a little bit of, the statements that the Kumāras are making here seem to be interesting. just contradictory in their own statement. So, because in the spiritual world, there's no enmity between the Lord and the residents. This just doesn't exist. Because that place, Vaikuṇṭha, is of, the platform of Shuddha Sattva. There's absolute love for the Lord. That all the Vaikuṇṭha residents are absorbed in serving the Lord in one way or another, whether they're sweeping or whether they're massaging the feet of the Lord or whether they're cooking for the Lord, whether they're worshipping the Lord. All of these things are going on. So what is the question of enmity? There is no enmity between the Lord and the residents. Here in the material world, the citizens may be inimical to the chief executives and the heads of state, but in Vaikuṇṭha there is no such mentality. We can see in the material world, that is the position we're talking about. Trump yesterday, he is the head of the United States of America, and so many people hate him. So many people hate him, and some people, so many people love him also. I think the location we're in, we can find that they very much love him here. You can find a Trump store every couple of miles if you go down the highway. But we see that although they're inimical towards the head of state, they're still allowed to exist within the state. But in the spiritual world, that is not so. That though there is no question of anyone not being a servant of Vishnu, there's no question of someone who is inimical towards Vishnu. But that is allowed in this material world, because that is the position of the jiva, that he is naturally opposed to authority. That he has come to this material world to take that position, to not like authority, to not take upon some proper shelter. He wants to be the enjoyer. He wants to be the person, the dog, the head dog. And you see that the president is taking up that position. So then so many others want that position, or so many others think their ideas are better, or such and such. So there's enmity. But in the spiritual world, nobody is trying to take Vishnu's position. And they also said Vishnu as bhaktaram yagyatapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. Vishnu, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we are his servants. That is very clear. In the material world, that is not very clear. Everybody either wants to be master, they want to be master, or they don't agree with the master, or they want their own position in which they can do whatever they like, and everybody thinks that their ideas are better than another. So, because of that situation, everybody coming out of sense gratification, everybody wants to enjoy their own senses. There is no position in which there can be a peaceful condition in human society. So there may be, in the material world we see that all the time, that is the position. But in the Vaikuṇṭha planets, there is not such thing. The basic principle of goodness is to accept subordination to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The sages therefore were surprised to see that the two doormen which checked them from entering the palace were not exactly like the resident of Vaikuṇṭhaloka. It may be said that a doorman's duty is to determine who should be allowed to enter the palace and who should not. But that is not relevant in this matter, because no one is allowed to enter into the Vaikuṇṭha planets unless they have developed 100% his mentality of devotional service to the Lord. No enemy of the Lord can enter Vaikuṇṭhaloka. The Kumāras concluded the only reason for the doormen checking them was that doormen themselves were imposters. They didn't consider maybe there might be a issue, maybe we're not completely there yet in order to enter. And we see this as a very rare occurrence going on, in which Jaya and Vijaya don't let someone in, because if someone can get up all the way over there, generally it's like, all right, yeah, come on in. But a devotee was mentioning in one article that there's generally the demigods are also able to approach Vishnu. We see that they go to the Sweta-dvipa, in which they, multiple times we see throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam, in which they approach Sweta-dvipa and pray to Lord Vishnu. And then we have great personalities like Durvasa Muni, although, again, offending the devotee of the Lord, he's able to go all the way up to Vishnu and pray to him. He doesn't stay there though, he comes back down. But we see that still there's mainly, this devotee is mentioning that there's two ways there. There's the person who pierces through the all the coverings of the universe and the Brahmajyoti, and then enters Vaikuṇṭha like that. And then there's a position in which with the demigods, there's the Sweta-dvipa, which is within this universe, and one is able to go there and pray to the Lord. And so the Kumāras, because they were impersonalist and still coming to the platform of pure devotional service, or attracted towards that, we see that they may be entering through this realm of Sweta-dvipa, in which, okay, now are you here to stay, or are you here, what's going on? You're trying to stay here? So we see that, I forget what exactly, they go back, do they stay in Vaikuṇṭha, or the Kumāras, they don't stay in Vaikuṇṭha, they go back. So they don't actually enter Vaikuṇṭha ultimately. We see that later, that they feel that they've offended actually Jaya and Vijaya also. That they tell Vishnu that we feel, now that we're kind of coming to, we see here that whatever punishment you have awarded to these two innocent persons, or also to us, we shall accept without duplicity. We understand that we have cursed two faultless persons. that they finally came to their senses and they realized, damn, we messed up. In our desire, in their zest, you could say, or in their just concentration upon, I want to enter into Vishnu, I want to see Vishnu, they kind of forgot that we may still be influenced by certain modes of mature nature. Although that desire is pure to see the Lord, their process of doing so may not have been the best thing to curse the two faultless persons. So they were ready to take upon whatever curse that they may have, or whatever consequences that Jaya and Vijaya would take upon also. They would also be ready to take punishment unto themselves. So you see that Jaya Vijaya, although they're approaching Vaikuṇṭha, and they're obviously they've got the qualification to become attracted to the Lord and be able to approach all the way, they're still influenced in some way or other. So that they weren't allowed to exactly enter. And I don't exactly remember, did they choose just not to continue, or did they just decide to go back and just roam around in Kumāras? Do you remember exactly?
Details of that, but we know that right now they're here.
They're just roaming around.
Well, live in Satyaloka.
Yeah. So we see also they weren't able to fully enter into Vaikuṇṭha planets. Huh? They entered, but they didn't stay there. They couldn't stay there.
The acharyas are one of the sampradayas.
So we see that multiple things going on here. That the Kumāras, they cursed the two personalities, and we see that Vishnu and how he replies, "O Brahmanas, know that the punishment you inflicted on them was originally ordained by me, and therefore they will fall to the birth in a demoniac family. But they will be firmly united with me in thought through mental concentration, intensified by anger, and they will return to my presence shortly." So whatever curse, the punishment you inflicted upon them, that Vishnu has sanctioned that, because obviously we see that one who has taken shelter of the Lord, they never fall down. One who is serving the Lord, they never fall down. They're always protected by Vishnu. So in this case, we see that he is fulfilling both the Brahmanas curses and the ability for the devotees to go on serving. They have not got rid of Vishnu's shelter because of so-called offense that we're kind of seeing here, that they are actually faultless persons. They were just doing their duty, they were doing their service towards Vishnu. So, but they had to take, in order to facilitate the pastime of the Lord, we see that, I believe, in the Lagu Bhagavatamrita that is given that, and that this is not something that actually happens in every millennium. It's not that it's a very rare occurrence that even actually that Jaya and Vijaya are coming down to do this. So it is orchestrated by the Lord for them to come down and be able to fight the Lord. He wants to. We often hear Bhakti Vikas Maharaj and different devotees kind of comment like that the Lord wants to take a fight, and there's nobody in the material world that's really qualified enough to fight the Lord. So his own associates have to come down and give a good fight, because Krishna wants to fight, he wants to have a good fight. So the associates his own associates give him a good fight. So, and they come for that purpose, to serve the Lord, not that they fell down like any of us. And they're connected with the Lord. They haven't got rid of service to the Lord, that they're in meditation with him in slight different rasa, in anger, in coming down and taking the position of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha and so many of these demons. So we see that they always remained connected with the Lord, meditating on him with anger, and they spend the 3 lives, they spent that in, and it's also said that it's a blip of time in terms of eternity. It wasn't very long actually, very short time. So for a little bit of time they came down and in you look at it, you go, yeah, they got to experience this different rasa with the Lord, in which we know that, where we see in Vrindavan, all of the different rasas, even the cowherd boys take upon, it increases the pleasure of the Lord. Variety is the mother of all enjoyment. We want variety, so the Lord wants variety, and the devotees, when they get to experience that variety, also they experience also great level of pleasure. We like to serve the Lord in different ways. So this and anger they are serving is, and generally we see in Rupa Goswami's Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that is not a favorable particularly thing to serve in anger, but in this case is exception that one is serving anger. Well, we see that in Vrindavan also, that gopis sometimes become angry with Krishna, and that is also favorable because they expand the service of the Lord. That is a rasa that Krishna has with the gopis, in which they may be angry with him and he has to pacify them, and then sometimes they may have some level of seemingly enmity towards Chandravali's and Radharani's side. So there's different rasas in the spiritual world. So we see that these are the different things that are going on. That's all I have. If there's any questions or comments, please feel free to ask, or any corrections. Foggy day.
So, the cowherd boys do play with Krishna, challenge him, and do all these things even in the spiritual world.
Yeah.
It's not only in the material world. So they may take challenging roles, chastise him, defeat him, all that kind of stuff. That all happens in the spiritual world also. You don't have to become a demon to do that. That's just boyhood playfulness.
Yeah, I think I said that in the beginning. I said that the cowherd boys also fight him in the...
You said that they don't do it in the spiritual world.
In the beginning, I said, when I started, I said they have that rasa in the...
I made a note, that's why. The difference in Vaikuṇṭha and not in Vaikuṇṭha is separation. There's no separation. There is a separation in the material world. Therefore, in some ways, the material world, pastimes in the material world with Krishna are glorified more because the intensity of devotional service is higher when there is separation from the Supreme Lord. Demons exist in the spiritual world, but they are not jivatmas who are enemies. I think it's Chakravarti Pad explains that Yoga Maya takes forms because devotee cannot have the enviousness and the qualities that are required to become a demon in the spiritual world. Therefore, Yoga Maya herself assumes these different forms in order to create those pastimes in the spiritual world. But they're not actually devotees who do that. So therefore that's why, with the cowherd boys it's different because they're just playfulness. That you don't have to be a demon to do that.
I think I was saying, in Vaikuṇṭha though, they don't do that. That's what I was saying, that in Vaikuṇṭha they don't really get a chance to play like that with the Lord, but in Vrindavan they get to do that.
Okay, well you said spiritual world. The Kumāras, they're one of the incarnations of the Lord. They're one of the Shakti Avesh avatars, like Narada Muni. They are bestowed with transcendental knowledge. And so therefore, they have a role to play in the material world. They just can't. They have a role to play within this material world, and therefore they're here. Just like Narada is a pure devotee, he's also here in the material world. So the Kumāras, they are the heads of one of the sampradayas. So it is not surprising that they didn't stay there. I mean, they are an incarnation for the material world. They have a role to play here. It doesn't mean that they are conditioned souls, just like Narada Muni is not a conditioned soul. And we don't take the Kumāras like that also, because they are the acharyas of one of the sampradayas. But just like our acharya Brahma also became bewildered, in that way the Kumāras may also, by the direct arrangement of the Supreme Lord. It doesn't affect their position, they don't become fallen because of that or anything like that, but it's a direct pastime of the Supreme Lord. And so that's why the Kumāras, they're here, because they have a duty, they have a service to perform in the material world. They're listed in this list of incarnations. They're listed as one of them. Transcendental knowledge.
Thank you.
I recall in the list of Leela avatars.
Huh?
I recall they're mentioned also in the list of Leela avatars.
Leela, they're not Leela, they don't perform Leela.
Anyways, I thought I read that somewhere. I
Leela
got really confused. Maybe I misread it. I'll bring it up later if I find it.
In Purport 2, 1, 3, that's where the incarnations are listed, 1, 3, 26, 1, 3, 27. Sorry, 1, 3, 26. Prabhupada says that, for instance, the Kumāras are empowered with transcendental knowledge. Sri Narada is empowered with devotional service. Maharaj Prithu is an empowered incarnation with executive function. So the Kumāras are listed under the empowered incarnation. Not
Yeah, for sure. They're definitely Shakti Vishya. Anyways, I'll talk to you later if I find it. But my question is, the Jai and Vijay, they're the doorkeepers of Vaikuṇṭha. And the function of a doorkeeper is to, like, guard and keep people out. And so, my understanding was kind of like the four Kumāras, how they're impersonalists at the time, and they came up to Vaikuṇṭha, was somehow an exception made by the Lord. Like, normally that doesn't happen, right? But then at the same time, the fact that there is that post in Vaikuṇṭha of, like, doorkeepers being there kind of makes you think, well, maybe, there's a function of being a doorkeeper in Vaikuṇṭha. So, I don't know, is it that, like, sages like that, they can go up? It's not...
Yeah, we see that, like we said, Durvasa Muni went up. Durvasa Muni, the demigods sometimes go. But generally they don't stay. Like Durvasa Muni came back, he didn't stay. So yeah, the doorkeepers there. Exactly how it all works, like, the doorkeepers are there, and that's an entrance into the kingdom of, into the Vaikuṇṭha planets. But yeah, we do see great sages sometimes go up.
Yeah.
So.
Could it be that, like, only pure devotees can get there, but it's not necessarily that every pure devotee belongs in that particular Vaikuṇṭha?
I don't know. I don't know how exactly, because there's many different Vaikuṇṭha planets, and each one has Jai Vijay. I don't know. Or is it into the entrance into the realm?
What service Jai Vijay exactly do? What's their daily task? We can't speculate on it because we don't have that information. Rest assured, they're not just standing there with nothing to do. They have desire to serve. They're in Dasya Rasa, and they'll be doing some service. What? We'll probably find out whenever we get the chance to go up there. The other thing is, you are right about the Kumāras being Leela avatar. They are Leela and Shakti Avesh.
Yeah, that's what I thought, but I never understood.
But I don't know what Leela they did. That's
Rishabhadev too is in the list of Leela avatars.
Yeah, this is Gokul Prabhu's list, and Prabhu has dug up from all the previous acharyas and this and that. I was just referencing to the purport that Prabhupada said, but I think I'm not sure which acharya. Maybe Jiva Goswami. I don't know. There's more detailed information in some of the other acharya books, which I have not gone through, and I don't know what Leela per se. The Kumāras, they have participated in Leelas, but Leela avatar generally means that they themselves are central to a particular pastime, which I'm not directly aware of.
Yeah. Anything else?
Prabhu, when you mentioned that Brahma got bewildered, our parampara.
Huh? I can't hear what you said. I think he was asking you. He was.
You tell me the answer.
What did you?
So Prabhu mentioned that four Kumāras and Brahma, the Sampradaya Acharyas, they got bewildered. So our Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, so they didn't got bewildered. So what is the difference? I mean, how to...
It's in order to teach, so not all acharyas may display like that, that in it there may be that they're giving a particular example, just like we see the Kumāras are giving, we see in this pastime, something is being taught. It may not be that everything, cases have to be taught by, bewilderment. So the acharyas, some may teach like that. We see that Brahma is teaching like that. But no, it's not a principle that an acharya has to teach like that. It's a very rare occurrence in which you see like that. Ideally, it's that acharya acts according to Shastra, according to Sadhguru Shastra. But when there's cases like that, that is understood that they're teaching in order to teach us. That it is a pastime. So because we see Brahma's position, what position is. So it's very clear. But because you don't want to take that's not a principle we take, because then people will exploit. Then anyone that falls down, they say, oh, no, this is my pastime. I'm only teaching you. It doesn't work like that. So acharyas, ideally, in general, principle means follow according to Shastra. They maintain all the principles, all the practices, everything we see as our acharyas did. And in that way, they teach us and help us come to this pure platform. And then there may be rare instances in which we see Brahma and sometimes the Kumāras are teaching like that. You want to add anything more to that?
Yeah, the Prabhu said it's all valid. You also have to understand that while the way we use the word bewildered, it's right there in the Bhagavatam actually. It's not that they actually became bewildered. It's just, and because it's an anomaly in their character, that how could Brahma not recognize his own father, Krishna? He spoke the Brahma Samhita, he's seen everything. How could he not recognize Krishna? And just that anomaly itself is proof that this is some pastime. See, Krishna ultimately is controller. Okay, he can make anybody do anything. All the jivatmas are completely under his control. And pure devotees are totally under his control. They submit. Everybody is under their control. Pure devotees voluntarily submit to Krishna's control. Conditioned souls rebel. So Krishna can do anything, and he shows that he can do anything, and that nobody is above. I mean, like when Narasimha comes, Lakshmi cannot even recognize Narasimha. This is all pastime. How can she not recognize her Lord? Who is Lakshmi? She is not conditioned soul. How can she not recognize? Prahlad is able to recognize, Lakshmi is not able to recognize. How do you understand this? So it just, but ultimately Krishna is in control. You see that? He shows always, I am Supreme Lord. And our acharyas, even when Krishna does things like this, and apparently it looks like Brahma is humiliated, they don't take it like that, because they're pure devotees. They're completely surrendered to Krishna. The story of the Kumāras, them acting in this way, it doesn't look good. But the example is given, therefore, to understand how exalted they are, how they are teaching, how Supreme Lord is a controller. So many lessons are learned from this pastime. The whole thing, like you were saying, Anyways, you see, so many more things could be said, right? This is Jaya and Vijay. They are the seventh door. They are right before the Supreme Lord. You go to any Vishnu temple, you won't find the other Dwarapalakas. You will only find Jaya and Vijay. Because only Jaya and Vijay are right in front of the Garbhagriha, in front of the sanctum sanctorium of the temple. Why them? They are special. Even after all of this, they are still there in all the temples, South India temples. And how can they disagree with the other Dwarapalakas? They were bewildered, or they were bewildered, So, this is so many ways you can look. The whole reason that this is shown is like this is an anomaly, so that it gets us thinking to churn these different lessons out for our own benefit, for us to come out of the conditioned state of existence. So, So yeah, I mean, generally Krishna will not do that to the acharyas, because acharya is acharya mam vijaniyam nava manheta karichit nasa buddhya suyeta sarvadeva mayo guruhu. Acharya cannot be bewildered. Acharya never falls down. So Krishna doesn't do that, but still Bhagavatam presents these stories with two acharyas.
So that if it was so that acharyas had to teach like that, it would lose faith in the shastra. It would lose faith in the shastra. Every acharya had a bewilderment, they seemingly got bewildered what's going on in your sampradaya.
They say that Prabhupada, he was just speaking, influenced by Scottish. All kinds of nonsense.
All this nonsense they speak. And also we see, all of these things, what was another point that I was thinking that? We see that personalities, great personalities, they have performed devotional service, they fall down. And we don't see that particularly as transcendental. Even within our, especially within our own, ISKCON, you could say, so many devotees have fell down, and they were great personalities that did so much service. So why do we? They're in that sense acharya that they did. They were acting in accordance, and they were teaching, they were serving Srila Prabhupada properly, but they had difficulty. We don't particularly take that as transcendental because we understand that we're still going through the level of purification. Now, not that we deride them or anything like that, but we see them as saintly, as the Bhagavad Gita says. But we can't take these incidents to be transcendental. It's not we just never should take that principle. That's the way to lose the whole plot. Everybody takes that excuse. And that's there actually, all the sahajas. That's the whole sahaja bhav is, I fell down with someone else's wife, but I'm okay. It's like, it says, holy name is transcendental. It was a pastime. It doesn't really work like that. It's got to be sanctioned, and under the sanction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, protected by the Supreme Personality. Brahma was protected. Immediately he gave that body up and continued his service, no problem. We see Jai and Vijay, there's some seemingly committed offenses, but no, they were completely protected. So the pure devotees are always under the protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Janardhan had something.
Yeah.
Charya had something.
I had something to add to this, but
Okay.
I was going to ask, especially a little bit on the topic of fall down and whatnot. You said this pastime is improperly viewed to justify what in relation to the fall down of the jiva. I was going to ask about that because that was a point you had made.
People think that, look at this. This is, even if you go to the spiritual world, you can still fall down. So people would take this pastime like that also. So, people they say, it's not that you go to the spiritual world and you can stay there forever, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. We see Jai and Vijay, they fell down, but it's not a fall down. It's not a fall down at all. We see it's a service. And so people are not able to, scholars may do like that, those who don't have the eyes to see. And so, or those, who are just, mental speculators. Even amongst devotee society, we have mental speculators who just like to go on. They can't get a complete understanding because maybe they don't have, we're able to accept Srila Prabhupada's and reconcile, and we'll see when we read through these purports, there's many different things Prabhupada says. But if you have an overall proper view and understanding of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, then you can understand exactly what is going on. And his Bhagavatam is also like that. There's I was saying that, the Kumāras, they're like transcendentalists, deeply philosophers, but then they're saying funny thing like this. There's no way that envious persons can't be up here, so you must be envious. It's like, come on, what are you talking about? So yeah. Anyways, it's pastimes are like that. Sometimes there's multiple understandings, and we see the acharyas churn that, it's just in terms of the muktis that are there, even. But one has to see how to reconcile all of these things, not see them separately. How to actually understand them so that it is favorable for our devotional service. Because if you're examining it and your speculation that you're doing speculate, philosophical speculation is allowed, but not mental speculation. That one takes what we're learning from Bhagavad Gita, applies it to what we're reading and hearing in the Srimad Bhagavatam, and churns and understands through different perspectives of the acharyas, and one has his own realizations, and one is able to give, churn that nectar that is there through philosophical understanding. But if one starts to have mental speculation in which he doesn't use references, he just kind of starts to take his own ideas, then you end up at a problem. So people do like that. Sometimes fall down with the jiva. I see Jai and Vijay fell down.
You said philosophical speculation. What about, okay, because I guess generally, like, when we hear speculation, it's like, oh, no, like, that's, like, bad. But you just mean, like, on the grounds of, like, it's supported by Shastra?
Yeah, so you have supporting statements in which it may not be very clear from this, so you're taking statements from Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, in order to support what we're doing. But again, it has to be conducive to devotional service, not that you take it and then we all become mayavadis. Yeah, it has to be in line with the teachings of our guru and acharyas. So that's why generally brahmanas are allowed to do it. You don't have those who are studied in shastras, they have the position in which they can churn things nicely. You don't let someone who's not studied in shastra churn like that, because often the case you come out with some nonsense. As we see, those who are not Brahminical or very philosophical or devotional, they'll come out with some weird, skewed understanding and mess up society. So it has to be Brahminical devotees that are able to actually churn things and give an understanding and help devotees, because ultimately they help us get further in devotional service. Whereas those who are not on that platform may not have that intelligence. What do? They just further away from Krishna consciousness. This Ritvik theory, all this nonsense you get out from Prabhupada's books. You can get anything out of Srila Prabhupada's books. Sense gratification is okay. You may be able, if you put enough statements together, you'll be able to get we can have sense gratification and we have Krishna consciousness. You can easily get that out. What's the problem? We can go play football and we can chant, you can stay, a devotee. We can do this, do that, stay a devotee. So all this nonsense you can get out.
I was just going to say that I appreciated the comparison that you made between this pastime and the pastime of Durvasa Muni. I hadn't really ever thought to compare those two together. And if you think about, like you mentioned with Durvasa Muni, right after he directly makes an offense to one of the Lord's devotees, he goes and he's able to directly meet with the Supreme Lord. Yeah. So that's a person where if, we were speaking about the job of Jai and Vijay, right? That's maybe a kind of person who you would definitely be like, no, not this time. But he just goes right in, So to me, I was just seeing these two things and just reflecting on that point again, that these things are able to happen because they're just directly orchestrated by the Supreme Lord. Like how can we explain this, and how can we explain this, and how can we explain this? The only explanation is that this is what the Supreme Lord wants, so he causes it to happen. Yeah. But I appreciated that comparison there. I never thought to make that.
We have to see in our own lives too like that sometimes, because it's hard to understand certain situations sometimes. Like how is it? Sometimes you do things that you just would have never done, or sometimes some devotee does something that you just never expected that devotee to do, and it's shocking sometimes. But sometimes often our vision is that the Lord has orchestrated this in my life to come closer to Him, to serve Him better. Then we're always in a better position. So the Bhagavatam teaches us like that too. We see Ambarish Maharaj's position. Durvasa offended Ambarish Maharaj, right? Yeah, his position was, this is a Supreme Lord's will that this Durvasa, he's angry with me and he's cursing me, and this fire, is manifest, and it was a demon, fiery demon that just came and wanted to kill him. All right, it's the will of the Lord. That you would have never expected Durvasa, you got angry like over some little thing like this. Like Ambarish Maharaj never expected that. This is such an unexpected thing. It's, you know, what a Muni, you get angry like that for us over. I drank water. Like all the Brahmanas told me I could do it. I mean, I did it under the sanction of the Brahmanas. I didn't break my fast. At the same time, I broke it. I'm following Shastra. What's the problem? I mean, Ambarish easily could have just got angry and said, "This guy is stupid. This is a rascal. You know, like what is this?" He's just. But he took the humble position. Okay, this is of course the Supreme Lord is putting me in this position. Now my position. What is my position? Pray to the Supreme Lord and go on in my service. So we have to see through the eyes of the Bhagavatam. This is really important, like Vishnu-chitta Prabhu was saying, that we actually really apply our minds into seeing how we could end up in such situations in our lives, and how those great personalities and what is the mood and position and actions they took in their lives. And so it helps us to prepare for when that situation comes in our life in which we're bewildered, or which we're put into a position in which we don't know what to do, or it's an awkward position, or we make the offense, or somebody else is very offensive for no reason, or so if we're able to absorb all of these things from Shastra of Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore Srila Prabhupada said that these books are enough. Bhagavad Gita, Nectar of Devotion, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita. The Krishna book, obviously Bhagavatam, that is Bhagavatam. And so these are enough. Why? Because they give us all of the circumstances and position. Who is saying that? Oh, Mukunda Datta Prabhu is saying that the Shastra is so vast because it's thinking of unlimited circumstances and situations in which we can learn from. So therefore the Shastra is so vast. There's just so many pastimes in there that all of it, if anybody's read through some of this Niti Shastra that is there in this, what is this book? Chanakya Niti is there, and then there's Panchatantra. Just like amazing, it's just so much. But there's just, the Shastras are so vast for the reason that Krishna has arranged this for us to learn and think about and absorb and apply in our lives so we can go back home, back to Godhead. So we should see these pastimes and apply them to our own lives, not just read them as a philosophical thing. Sometimes devotees have a tendency to do that, or just reading for the sake of learning. But no, it's for the sake of applying, not just for the sake of learning it so you can sit up on the Vyasasana and just speak. That is, of course, that is natural, but it's for the sake of applying in our lives. And then you will have deeper realization and be able to speak more deeply into these things. So sorry, there's you had a question.
Just one small thing in relation to like seeing how we can apply this in our lives. How like some situations might be arranged. Anyways, there's a nice letter in Patra Pradesh that Guru Maharaj basically was saying to a devotee. Talked about how he was rendering some service in some temple, and like the head pujari there was like giving him like a really hard time, and like really just trying to make it clear that like I had this position, I'm superior to you. And Guru Maharaj like looked at it like I mean at the end of the day this devotee's serving Krishna, and Krishna's put him here. He's accepting the service from him. So even if he's giving me a hard time, like I should accept that. And anyways, it kind of I guess ties into that point you were making about like we might be put in these situations that are difficult, but if we can look at it with the proper attitude, it can be conducive for our advancement, rather than just like looking at it like, well, this person's like wronging me, and this is like I like there's no justification for this. So anyways, just
it's a humble position to take. You always come out on top, and that's the principle of devotional service. So, is there anything else? No. Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Pancha Vaikuṇṭha Namo Namo.